I asked Pauline to come over and join us. Now, Pauline's part of our worship team. She's also a mum, great mum. She got 3 kids, 4 if you include Sam, her husband. You got Josie, Jet, Max, which I got the privilege of watching 12 hours of Lord of the Rings over the holidays with him. It was awesome. And of course, there's Sam.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, just to start with, you had a word at the end of our singing time. And it's an operation of a spiritual gift, which I think had a few things in. There was a bit of wisdom and there was a word of encouragement, but also there's a kind of a gift of faith in the middle of it. What I thought would be helpful for everybody else is like, how did you know that God was prompting you to speak? What, did God audibly speak to you, or did he shoot you a tweet or something like that? Or
Almost.
How does it work for you, Operation of Gifts?
Well, actually, it was funny. After last week, I realised God has probably spoken to me a few times and I've not done what he wanted me to do.
Right.
Because I felt that feeling before.
It.
Yes, where I've felt the prompt to do something and I just didn't do it. It kind of just landed in my heart, spirit, like a package of information and almost like a picture as well. And that was cool. I was sitting there going, wow, well, I didn't think of this. This must be from God. Like, I would never have thought that. Then I just got like super sweaty and my heart started thumping and I knew that I probably had to get up and share it.
Were you sitting by Sam at the time, the sweatiness and
yes,
heart thumping?
yeah.
Right. That could have been just your husband. So.
Yeah. So I don't know what, I can't describe what prompted. I just knew that I had to share it.
It was like, there's something here that's not, it's going beyond you and you need to share.
Even though I wasn't even 100% sure that it was from God, but I knew that it was strong enough that I had to listen to my body responding by getting sweaty, that I had to go do something. So I just got up and did it.
So you stepped out there not really knowing whether.
Oh, 100%.
Whether it was actually God or not, but you had the courage to step out and do that. Cool. So why don't you share with us the word that you had? Because I think it parallels what Glenda has seen.
It's exactly. And the funny thing is 2 people afterwards came up to me and said they felt exactly the same thing, or pretty much the same thing at about the same time. So that was great too, because then I was like, oh, okay, thank goodness it maybe was from God. But I just really felt when we were standing there singing, I just felt something in my spirit, almost like it twisted and clicked. And I could feel that God was so pleased with our worship, and that the picture I had in my head actually was, when I sort of thought about it a bit more later, it was almost like if I was standing at the back of the room looking over the top of everyone, and I could see the praise floating up. Like floating was the word I got, but it was like it's not like it was smoke, it was more like if you could see sound, that's what I could see going up. And God was just getting it, and he was so happy and pleased, and he was smiling at us as we were doing it last week.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's very, very much in line with what Glenda had seen.
Yeah.
So something that we were doing, and when we're talking about worship too, we're not talking about just singing time. It's kind of the way we live our lives now. It's completely different. It was, say, 10 years ago, and it's obviously doing something that's actually impacting the heart of God. And I think God does get impacted when he has people that are really want to step out. And I remember Pastor Tim was here, and he's the chaplain from Hillcrest, and he said he had another word on the back of it. He didn't share it. He said, but he was busting with this one word. He said, he was trying to find a way to break into the service, and he didn't get the release to do it. And at the very end, I actually made the comment to say, these 5 things that God uses to grow big faith, you can't actually make them happen. God makes them happen. All you can do is position yourself into the environments by which God can grow this big faith. And the word was position. He's wanted to leap up and say, yes, that's great what Pauline said, but it's position. And then we had Christine afterwards that she came up and she said, I experienced those 5 things last week with Michael having a stroke. So you also have a bit of a story here in relation to how these 5 things work from your point of view. Could you share that with us?
Yes. So last week when Pastor Kev was sharing his message, I suddenly remembered this journal entry I'd written 7 years ago, like back in 2015. It just came to me, and actual specific lines from it, which was so weird because I haven't thought about that for so long. But Pastor Kev was talking about circumstances, and our response to circumstance comes from our position and where we're at. And at this particular time, I was a very broken person. I was a year into a 4-year journey of chronic, horrible pain, and I was exhausted. I was 8 and a bit months pregnant. And when I wrote this particular journal entry, my kids who were 3 and 6 at the time had school sores, which sounds like nothing, it's fine, except that on them, it wouldn't stop. And it was like leprosy on their bodies. It was massive open wounds. Like, it was just so distressing. And the baby was coming, and baby can't be exposed to school sores. It's dangerous for them. And so all these things were going wrong, and I was struggling to cope. And all the way through this whole journey of my health problem, I reverted to blaming God. I was so angry at him. And this journal entry that I wrote, it wasn't even my worst one, but it was pretty bad. And I was writing in there things like, I actually compared myself to Job. I was like, I am the modern day Job.
Oh, wow.
And
you were
I
really
said,
in it.
oh, yeah.
You were in the hole.
Oh, boy.
You were down there.
Yep. And I said stuff like, God, you have made me fearful and desperate. And I said things like, what else are you plotting against me? And I remember one thing, and then I was talking about like hope or something like, or joy or something, and I said, I know I'm supposed to praise you through all circumstances, but how can I praise you when I blame you? And I know you could fix this, and you're choosing not to. And I ended it, and
really
this is, oh, dude, not even the worst. But the very end of it, the very end was the line that I remembered when I was sitting here, and I had said, God, do us all a favor and take your hand off our family. It's too heavy for me to bear. That's the place I was in. That was my position.
That was low.
It was pretty rock bottom. But thank goodness God didn't listen to me, and he talked to people who were in a better position than me, because when I think about it in terms of those 5 things, I wasn't spending time with God. I wasn't engaging in the teaching. I wasn't being teachable. I wasn't spending any time with him. I wasn't doing my devotions. I was too busy writing journals, like angrily and aggressively. I was yelling at him.
Here's another one for you.
But then, I don't know what the time frame was. I'm sure I could figure it out if I look back through my journals. But sometime later, a year or so later, and the thing is, I was in a village, but I didn't share with my village. I didn't tell them anything that was going on.
So you didn't tell the people in your village, your
I didn't even tell my own
providential
husband
group.
how bad things were getting for me.
Wow.
But then sometime later, one of our village leaders, Mark Richardson, I've told this before, he just felt God say to him, because he was obviously positioned well and spending time with God, he felt God say, you all need to pray and fast for Pauline. And so our whole village got in on it. They probably didn't even understand why, but they did it anyway, faithfully, and they fasted for 4 days, food or something else. And I spent that 4 days just sitting with God. I did nothing else. I just spent time with God. And that was when God said to me, this is not the plan for you. And that was a pivotal moment for me, and my hope came back, and then I just started fighting for my relationship with him, fighting for my health, and now I am who I am today.
So cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because in the context of that, you've got everything that you were in a village, which is your providential relationships, but you weren't sharing with them. So you could choose to sit in a village and not share. But that pivotal circumstance, if you didn't have those people around you, and then you have Richo, which is your leader, that opts for some practical teaching and says, hey, listen, we need to fast. I mean, that could have turned out completely differently.
Well, and that was big faith from Mark as well, because he didn't know what the end result was going to be. So it was big for him to say, hey, everyone, give up food for 4 days for no reason that you know. So that was big faith.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that.